Welcome to Scrapbook Techniques. I'm Angela, and I'm going to be with you, live tonight to make sure that you are getting to see a copy of our new memory journal class. Okay, this class is in a brand new format for this year. And for those of you who are not familiar with how a memory journal class works, this class basically works with the first hour is going to be demonstrations of some techniques and some fun things to kind of watch. And it's also going to be to learn a little bit about how to use some of our products in some different ways. So that's what we're really going to be focusing on tonight. So you can see my desktop here. And this basically is going to let you kind of see everything that I'm doing as I'm demonstrating some techniques. And also the second hour of this will be just kind of a prep where we can get together and basically look at everything and see, do the techniques make sense? And is it something that you want to incorporate into your memory keeping? Okay, so let's get started here. First thing I want to talk about is on a memory journal. It's all about capturing your memories, whether it's a daily memory journal like what I do, whether it is a travel memory journal, of which this kit that we're working with this month is a great kit for that. But it's all about preserving your memories. And so really what you want to do is you want to do enough journaling so that you're easy to basically come back and to see what is it that happened, what is it that you want to know about, okay? So what we're going to look at here is just a couple of examples of some journals that you could do, okay? So in these journals, I've pulled just a couple of them out, okay? Sometimes when you're dealing with a day-to-day, you basically may need a little prompt, okay? And there's lots of journals like this one here that I'm going to show. And this basically is a 5-year question-a-day memory journal, okay? And on this, if we open this up, inside this is for each day of the year, there is a nice little question here, okay? And basically, this can help you kind of decide if there's something that you want to journal about, that you want to tell a story on. They're great to use as story prompts, especially if you're doing something like I am, where you're doing a daily story, okay? So these are great to have. This one small book would hold 5 years worth of memories, which would be a pretty good and easy way to be able to look back, have one little book, and be able to see kind of what's going on, okay? Hello, ladies, welcome. Can you hear me, everything okay? Thumbs up?
I hear you.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. So this is one option for journaling. Okay. And again, this works really good if it's something that you're wanting to do like an everyday type project on. Okay. We'll set that one aside. There's a couple of other options that you can do. What I have decided to do, I started this actually last year. And sorry, there's a little bit of lag time in terms of my video here. So I just want to make sure you guys can see everything. So basically what this is a little Hobonichi A6 planner. Okay. And in this planner, it is a nice compact, it's about a 4x6 size, especially if I took the cover off. And basically what this does is this has a cute little monthly section in here with nice gridded lines. And you can see I've got lots of notes in here in terms of, different schedules, that type of stuff. But the thing that I really use this for are its daily pages. Okay. So let me just kind of flip back here. Each day has its own little 4x6 page. Okay. And I use this just to jot down a couple of notes here and there about what happened that day. And that is going to help me match that up with my photos later on. Okay. So as we do this, you can see some days I write a little bit more. Some days I didn't really write anything, and that's okay. Maybe nothing really too exciting happened that day. And then other days I write a lot. Okay. And it really just has to do with trying to preserve my memories. Okay. Kind of what do I need to remember to help support my photos? Okay, so I really encourage you, as part of our Creative 15 exercise that we're going to be doing throughout all of these classes, is to find a way to do a quick journal in 15 minutes a day. That's kind of my challenge to you for this month, is what can you set up that will let you decide, easily recall, and record your memories. Okay. Maybe it's something like just a blank dot grid notebook, like what I have here. Okay. So, this I will tell you is a little intimidating. That's a lot of white space to have to fill in, especially with a long form type journal. Okay. Maybe you use, something like this, but you just use the monthlies and you jot down 3 things that either made you happy that day or that happened that day. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at and do journaling in a very, very quick format. Okay. So that's kind of my challenge to you. This month's Creative 15 challenge is journaling. What can you do in 15 minutes a day to record your memories and make them easy to recall? Okay, super simple challenge. Okay, so that kind of covers our Creative 15 portion of this. What I want to kind of move into next is talking a little bit about photo management. And this kind of gets into our organizational section of this particular class. So what I have done is, when we're dealing with memory journals, there's a lot of different ways that we can record our memories. There's a lot of different ways we can record our individual photos. But how do we keep track of them? How do we know what it is that we need to do? Well, let me show you first of all what I used to do. And I thought this was the absolute perfect method. Okay. This is a 12 by 12 scrapbook binder. Okay. It is huge, as you can see. Okay. What I used to do is, every time that I would print photos, I would put them inside the book. Here you can see just my photos printed out. And I would put my journaling in here with them. And I thought that that was just a perfect way to kind of store and see all of the photos and everything that I needed to do. Well, guess what? I have probably, let's see, this is 2007. My books go all the way back to 2005. So therefore, I have at least 16 of these big binders sitting over on my shelves right now. That doesn't make it very easy to go back in and figure out what I still need to scrapbook. So I needed a better method. So let me show you what I started last year. And this just kind of gives you a good idea of what you can do. It is still in binder format, but I'm okay with that. This is a nice little letter size binder. And it is pretty thick. It's about a 3-inch, as you can see from the spine here. And this is going to be where every single 2023 photo is going to go, as well as any story ideas, any stories that I want to tell, any memories I want to keep. I'm gonna show you here. I've got a little bit of a cheat sheet in here for journaling as well. And it's a free download that's available. Okay. So when I open this up, I have my 2023 calendar printed right here. Make sure you can see that. And on it, I like to do my photo management by week. Okay. I like to look at each week. It just makes it kind of small. It doesn't get to be this great, big, huge, overwhelming thing that I can't keep track of. And so basically, this helps me keep track of each week number, when it begins and when it ends. And that is a big key that goes into the organization of this entire binder. Okay. Here you can see I have some blank letter size page protectors. These are divided page protectors, and they hold 4x6 photos because that is the size that I most often print for scrapbooking. And I'll show you what I use for memory keeping because that's different. Okay. So if I flip past all these wonderful little blank guys here that I have just for ease and convenience, this is the meat of what is actually going on inside this binder. Okay. I have 52 tabs. These are just numbered 1 through 52 to represent all 52 weeks. And in this, I also have 12 pockets that I've labeled by each month. Okay. So I know within this section right here, this is all of the weeks of January. Anything to do with January photos or January story ideas are going to be in this little section. February is going to start back here. You can see February kind of starts with week 5, if you can see that with all these reflections. There we go. And so what I use these for, these little pockets, I will use to put in like memorabilia. Maybe we had tickets to a movie. Maybe we had ski tickets or whatever it might be. But I'll just slide those right in here. Or if this pocket isn't big enough, say it's something big, say it's a big piece of artwork or something that my daughter did for me that I want to save, that I want to scrapbook about, I will take a picture of it, put a note in here to say, go to X file to find this drawing. Okay. So I create a kind of a reference sheet right here. Either my memorabilia is put in here, and we've been really boring in January, so I don't have anything to put in there right now. So either it's in here or there's some type of a representation that tells me, go look for this. Okay. So that's what that pocket's used for. And then I get to the first 4x6 page protector here. Okay. You can see I've already got a little 4x4 photo in here. And I have this wonderful little scrapbooking planner in here. Okay. This is a little form that I made up. I used to use what this is printed on the back of, these story ideas by Allie Edwards. However, they didn't really work for me. They didn't have enough details for me to really capture what I wanted to make sure I didn't forget my story. Okay. So what I did was I designed, it's roughly about a 6x8 page, not quite, but it's about a 6x8 page, fits in a little 6-ring planner if I want it to. And basically what this does is this walks me through all the parts of my layout that I'm planning. Okay. Has the date. It has the theme. Okay. I do a lot of theme scrapbooking. Either it's kids, it's nature and outdoor, it's travel. So that's important to me to capture is, what am I doing as I'm working with this kit this month? I want to find all my travel themed layouts because I want to do a lot of layouts in regards to this. I have all my photo details here. Have I selected my photos? Have I edited them? Have I printed them? Have I added it to my master spreadsheet into Trello, which is my creative hub where I keep track of everything that I want to do and that I have done since I started scrapbooking back in 2005. So you can imagine that's a pretty good sized spreadsheet, but it's a lot of fun to look back and see what all I did or didn't do. A couple of notes about my photos. Do I have verticals? Are they 4x6? Are they 3x4? Are they horizontal? What am I planning? This particular one, so part of when I scrapbook, I tend to only do 12x12 layouts for what I'll call occasions and things like that. So most everything else is going to be covered in my daily memory journal or it's going to be covered in these month in review pages, which are pocket pages. Okay. And so this will be anywhere from 1 to 2 to 4 pocket pages that I'll do each month. And it just captures a lot of stories that didn't really fit in my memory journal, but really don't warrant a 12 by 12 layout. Okay. So it's kind of that in between stuff. I want to capture the memory. I want to capture the story, but I don't really need to capture this on a big 12 by 12 layout. Okay. It's not like it's a birthday. It's not a special outing or anything like that we've done. So there's this little guy right here. And I have this whole next little section here, which is the memory or the story that I want to remember. This is another way that you can do a quick 15-minute journal. It's right here on your page, plan your layout. Okay. What supplies am I either thinking about using or have I used? Okay. That's going to go in this section right here. Here you can see I'm already planning on using my Studio Calico January kit for this. Okay. So super easy. And then I've got a little note down here just about when did I complete this? Because a lot of times I run a lot behind. I'm still working on 2007 Grease photos. So that'll tell you, I'm not current in any way, shape, or form. And that's okay. I don't need to be, because I've captured my memory. I know what it is I want to tell the story about it on that photo and why that photo or that place was special. So I don't need to be current or caught up. It takes that pressure of being current and caught up off. Okay. This little guy folds in half, slides right into my page protector. Ready to go. So this is where I'll put all of my photos that are just going to go in this month in review kind of pocket page layout. Then I get into week 1, which is truly the heart and soul of this. Okay. I mentioned that I use a different type of page protector for my memory journal. Okay. My memory journal is 6 by 8. So therefore I have to use a smaller size photo on that. Otherwise, if I tried to use a 4 by 6, I really couldn't do a whole lot with these pages that are only 6 by 8. So I typically will use a wallet size photo, which is 2.5 by 3.5, or a 2 by 3 if I happen to print it out on one of my personal small printers. But I really like the wallet size. I think that's just a good kind of in between. And so what I've done, this is an artist trading card page protector is all this is. You can pick them up in bulk on Walmart, Amazon, all of that stuff. I'll have links of where you can find some of this stuff. And all that I have done is these great little templates you see back here. I've cut these out. These are sized perfectly to fit in these holes. And I just write the date on it. So here you can see for the first week of January, exclude January 1st down here because it's kind of an orphan this year because it's technically kind of part of last year. But here you can see January 2nd through January 8th, and that matches up to my week number right over here. All of my photos are printed except for one. So I've done a really good job of doing my daily photo management for the first week of January. Okay, sitting here ready to go, waiting on me to get layouts ready to go. Okay, now let me skip to week 2. Okay, here's my week 2. Again, the exact same setup. I'm behind the week 2 divider. I have January 9th through January 15th. And here you can see I'm totally done. I've got everything printed, ready to go. Okay. I also have a layout that I want to do. Okay. This is my memory journal, which is our main focus here tonight. This is my scrapbook page that I want to do. This happens to be of my daughter and her best friend's first ever sleepover. And so I wanted to do a special layout on that to kind of commemorate that date. Okay, so all I did, again, I grabbed my little scrapbooking planner. I, wrote out my date, what my theme is. My theme is going to be children because it's all geared towards the girls. Okay. When did I select my photos? Did I edit them? Did I print them? Has it all been added to the spreadsheet? Have I added it into Trello, which is my creative hub? What types of photos do I have? I have 2 4x6 horizontal photos. Okay. That's going to help me if I decide I want to use a sketch later. Maybe there's some particular sketch and that's the qualifications that I want to look for on that particular sketch. I'm planning on this being a 12 by 12 one-page layout. It's not going to be a double page layout. I only have 2 photos. Super easy. Okay, here's my story. Their first sleepover ever. They made this cute little sign to keep out of Bree's room because it was their room now. And, so just trying to document those cute little things. And then I'm also planning on using next month's kit, our storybook kit, to document this. So I've just made a note right here. Okay. Just so that I kind of know, hey, look, this is what I plan on using this for. Okay. So this, basically my photo management is done for weeks 1 and week 2. And I can easily look in here and see that. Okay. I didn't have any 12 by 12 layouts that I wanted to create in week 1. That's okay. I'm fine with that. I typically create about anywhere from 5 to 7 a month. Okay. So not every week's going to have one because some weeks are going to have multiple ones. Okay. Here's definitely a 12 by 12 layout here that I know I'm going to use. Okay. And you can see I am set up for this for each week going forward. I even have some little planner pages if I want to do, if I want to kind of map out my month in reviews. So I've got that ready to go. But basically, I know that if I am scrapbooking 2023, my stories and my photos are in one place. All I have to do is go and get one book. Okay. So whether it's a book like this, whether it is a folder. Now, do I have all my photos like this? No, I really wish I did. And it's a big focus of what I want to do this year is I have a whole cabinet full of printed photos from when Bree was a baby. And I need to get those organized so that I know what I need to scrapbook. Do I have birthday themes? Do I have zoo themes? I have no clue. They're sitting in their nice, bright orange Shutterfly envelopes. And all of these, they're nicely organized. They're organized by date, but I couldn't tell you what's in those to save my life. Versus here, and if I looked back at some of my prior years, I can easily flip through these. Oh, look, there's a children. I'm working with a children's kit right now. Let me pull this out and see if there's some way that I can use this with this kit that I'm working on right now. So it helps cross that boundary between your supplies and your projects. And how do you marry those up? Okay. So again, just kind of some ideas to think about in terms of photo management. Questions or anything? Oh, hang on, Carmen. Let's get you unmuted.
I was talking to my husband. Sorry.
Unmuted. There we go. You need to ask again?
Oh, I was talking to my husband. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
To my husband. I don't know if it's on your end or my end, but your video keeps pausing every once in a while.
Okay.
I was talking to my husband. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I
Got it.
I don't know if it's on your end.
All right. Okay. So we're gonna stop there. And what we're going to do is we are going to continue and we're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to use tonight. And we're going to talk a little bit about some fun things here. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is each month we are going to feature a different color. Okay. And for this month, the particular color is honey butter. And you should see it appear on your screen. I think we've got just a little bit of a lag. And so honey butter is a brand new color. It came out in 2022. And one of the things I love about when they have new colors is they tend to feature these colors in a lot of kits, which is awesome. So if you're new, you're just trying to kind of build and kind of, get your supplies in orders, that type of thing. It's great when we're going to focus on these each month. And generally when I focus on these, it generally means that pretty much everything we're going to be dealing with is going to be in that color. So that kind of helps a little bit, kind of helps you plan. And, I definitely can't go out and buy every single cardstock and ink and everything else, all at one time. So it kind of helps you plan and kind of focus on if you like the color, you like the kits that it's used in. It kind of helps you plan a little bit and say, okay, I want to do this. Okay. So of course it comes just like every other kit that we have. And I'm missing my re-inker. There we go. So you will see we have our 12 by 12 cardstock. I have cut my 12 by 12 cardstock down to 6 by 8 as well. And this is also where I keep all of my scraps, are in these little 6 by 8 page protectors here. And so this is all ready, and this is what we're going to be working with tonight on our memory journal class. Okay. We've got our inks. We have our ink pads. We have all of that. And there's our 12 by 12. So let's take a quick look and see what all this kit is used in, or this color is used in, excuse me. So let me grab this month's. There we go. All right. So the kit, and we'll talk about this a little bit more here in a little bit, that we're using this month is Are We There Yet? Okay. This is a great travel themed kit, and it features the honey butter color a lot in it. Okay. Bright, bold splotches of yellow kind of throughout the entire thing. Okay. So that's a lot of fun. The next kit that we will actually be working with in here is Storybook. Okay. And Storybook basically comes in and it has these bright pops of yellow. It's very children-oriented, children-themed. But you can see it has these same colors of this honey butter kind of all throughout the kit. Okay. We'll be actually working with this kit in February. This is our February kit. Okay. Our next kit that we have is March. Well, you'll notice we've got the yellow, but it's not as brilliant and bold. Okay. It's still honey butter. However, it is the lighter side of honey butter. Each of our 12 by 12 cardstocks comes with a darker tone and a lighter tone. Okay. This particular kit happens to use the lighter tone of honey butter. Okay. So just something else to kind of keep in mind is you basically are getting two pieces of cardstock, and you can see the tonal differences there with each piece of cardstock. All right. So Life's a Hoot, that is going to be March's kit. We'll be working with it, kind of a nice springy type floral and some cute little woodland animals. So we'll be working with that. And then some other kits that this is featured in, and you will see this one a lot on my creations, is Celebrating You. And this is a birthday themed kit. And I am going to be using this to document Bree's birthday last year. Okay. It's a lot of fun. I love these colors, probably my all-time favorite color combination between the Lagoon, the Sapphire, and the honey butter. Okay. Love this color combination. So this Lagoon color also happens to be Bree's favorite color right now. So it's perfect for her birthday. Okay. So that's another one that we'll be using. Our next one is a kit that we won't be working with really until the springtime. Okay. It's in our annual catalog. It's called Flower Shop. And you can see it's very springy. It kind of has a spring kind of family theme to it. Okay. And so you'll see it uses a ton of this honey butter color as well as some ballerina. It's going to use some, I think this is avocado here, but there's just a lot of different colors that this is going to use, but we're going to use this one in the springtime. And you'll especially see it featured in the memory journal in the springtime, which will be a lot of fun. Okay. All right. So that's kind of why I've kind of started this new feature of kind of featuring a color to help you kind of learn a little bit more about these colors, how they're used, what they're used in, and kind of how they work. Okay. So that's kind of talking about that. So let's talk about our kit. So we just touched on it just a little bit. And we are using the Are We There Yet kit this month. It is very travel themed. However, keep in mind that just because it's travel themed does not mean that it has to be used only on travel layouts. Okay. Here, I used it on our January class calendar. Okay. And again, I choose which stickers and types of things we used. Away we go. We're having a whole lot of fun starting new classes. Adventure begins. Come away with me. Doesn't necessarily have to depict travel. Okay, so keep in mind, even when you're looking at these kits, there's a lot of different ways that you can use these. Okay, not just necessarily for travel. So that's one example. Here is my January memory cover. Okay, this one, of course, is 6x8. It's going to be a smaller size. And what I tried to do here was just kind of show January as a new beginning. Okay, I used a Picture My Life card. I used some stamps, some die cuts. I used the camera from here. And I thought it was just kind of a great way to kind of kick off the year and kick off the memory journal for January. Okay, life is a grand adventure. Enjoy the journey. Okay, doesn't necessarily have to be travel. So keep in mind, even when you get a kit that is obviously as themed as this one is, you can still use it for other things. Okay, one of the other things that will help you stretch that are the mix-in papers. Okay, this is a series of normally monochromatic papers, although you will end up with some stripes and those types of things, like what I've used on this page. But these help take this travel kit and make it a little less travel themed. Okay, again, here's that gorgeous honey butter color, just in a nice, cute little stripe. Here it is in a nice little check. Here we have toffee. You can use this with anything, you know. There we have sapphire. You can use that with anything. Same thing here. We have a sage and we have a papaya. Okay, so these mix-in kits can also help kind of extend and give your kit a little different life. Okay, doesn't have to be all travel, but this one is highly travel. It's awesome. Okay, I have dug back into 2007, like I said, and I am doing a bunch of Greece photos that have basically sat for, oh my goodness, 15 years. Okay, so it's kind of fun to kind of find these themed kits. Here we have a whole bunch of passport marks. We have maps. We have the nice honey butter and the stripes. Again, you could use this on anything. Doesn't have to be travel. This is one of my favorites. This goes along with all of the new M stamps that have like the Colosseum, the Tower of Pisa, that have all of that information on there. And so this particular paper here, and I wish I had the stamps, but I don't have them in yet, will be really cute kind of paired with those stamps. Okay. We have some cute geotags here. And I'll wait on this to catch up just a little bit. There we go. And then we also have these super fun suitcases. Okay. Suitcases are a ton of fun to play with. And again, this might be a weekend trip. This might be a long trip that you've taken, but they're always a lot of fun to play with. So that is the kit that we're going to be working with today, as well as the mix-ins. Okay. So let's get down into and talk about our technique for today. Okay. We are talking about how we get ink down on paper. Excuse me. Okay, so we played with a bunch of things in last night's scrapbooking class. And here's just a couple of things that we did. Okay, we created this tag out of a plain white tag. So I went from here to here, all with the use of stencils and ink. We created this cute little travel tag here that was some layered thin cuts and some stamps from our kits, okay? As well as some cute little, we put some splatters on there. We created just a fun ink blended tab that we then kind of went back through, applied some water on, and we kind of made this cute little watercolor here. And I know it's a little hard to see those colors on the camera. And then we also created some cute little embellishments that I plan on using tonight, okay? And this one, you can see we've used some distress inks. We've kind of watercolored it a little bit. Here we've used some distress inks and we've kind of splattered it. And on each of these, you can see we've also added just a little bit of our shimmer brush to it to give them just a little bit of sparkle and shine, as well as their aging, okay? So there's just some fun things that we played around with last night. So we're going to talk a little bit more tonight. I'm going to set those aside for right now and my finished page as well. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about how to use ink and how to get that down on our page. But let's do a quick ink review first, okay? Let me pull out just some examples here, okay? So these inks are normally on my desk all the time. Okay, we've got a Distress Oxide. We have got a our normal dye-based ink, and we have a pigment-based ink. Okay, so we have 3 different types of ink. Let's talk about each one of these separately. Okay, our dye-based ink. Okay. That is the staple of what Close to My Heart does. They're awesome. They provide great fine lines for stamping. However, they dry quickly, okay? They will tend to sink into your paper, okay? Let's see, I don't know if I have an example that you can really see here. Not really, because this is all distress inks, okay? But they're gonna sink right into your paper. They're going to become very permanent and very fixed very quickly, okay? So you can't do things like emboss with them. You can't, they're not really too water reactive, even though they're a water-based ink, okay? Our pigment inks are the next type. Pigment inks are going to tend to pool on top of our paper. So they're going to sit above our paper a little bit. And these are basically going to take longer to dry, so they can be used for embossing. They will also react and move around a little bit more with water, okay? And then our very last type of ink that we're going to talk about are Distress Oxides. And this is one of my favorite types. Distress Oxide is a hybrid ink, okay? It reacts, it will still give you a nice, crisp, clean stamp, but it will be slow to dry, so you can emboss with it. And it is highly reactive to water, which is what we're really going to play with tonight. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to kind of play with these with water as we're kind of doing our next page tonight, okay? So 3 different types of inks. All 3 have great uses. All 3 have very different uses. So let's talk about some of the tools we can use with ink blending. And there's a lot of them. Okay. So here's just a quick little sample. Okay. You guys have all seen me use multiple times the little finger daubers. Okay. Little foamed raised edges. This is one, of course, that has been inked. This is for my Distress Oxide. And basically, these small daubers are good for doing small areas. Or if you're like me and you like to put a little bit of color on the side of your paper, they're great for doing that because you get lots of control. There you go. You can see now I've got a little less white all around that particular stamp. Okay, so they're great for that. They're great for small areas. What they are not great for is doing large areas. Okay, these work really good for like small stencils. They're perfect for that because you can really get in there. And I'll show you some examples here in a little bit. You can really get in there and play with it. That is how I ended up doing this one. I actually used a flat foam on. But I'll show you some examples of what we can do in terms of using these daubers also to ink up different colors on your stamps, which is a lot of fun, kind of creating a rainbow or ombre effect on your stamps themselves, and then stamping that down. Okay, this particular tag was done using these little foams. Okay, and these little foams come with this nice little handle here, and it has a hook and loop enclosure on it. And I'm going to pull both of these out because it's two different examples. One you can see is a very flat, kind of a pancake looking foam applicator. And the other is a domed. Okay, so two different uses for this as well. Okay, our flat, again, they're going to attach right here on the bottom, is what I use to do this. Because you can see this stencil is pretty wide open, and these flat daubers make it really easy to get in there and really get that ink kind of moved into the stencil itself. So that is how this tag was created, was using one of these, okay, for the foreground, for this dark toffee foreground. The background that you can see is a mixture of papaya, honey butter, and some sage, kind of these inks all blended together, was actually done and created using the foamed top. Okay, and again, these attach the exact same way, just like that. There we go. And this basically lets you cover larger areas without a lot of brush strokes. Okay, so that's what this one's going to be used for. And we're going to go through some examples here. Okay, so that's another tool. And even yet another one that you can use are these brushes. Okay, they come in a variety of sizes and shapes and colors. You can see I've got some great big ones. I've got some small ones. I even have some teeny tiny ones here. And these are a set of just finely toothed little bristles. And these are also used, as I'm sure you can imagine, larger areas and smaller areas. The thing to keep always in mind about this type of a blending tool is it is always going to give you a lighter finish than if you use one of the foams. Okay, so if you want just a nice light little texture, grab your blending brushes. If you want a nice deep dark texture, then grab some of your blending foams here. Okay. Okay, we also have some water tools. I have just a water paintbrush, and I have a little mini mister tool. So we're going to play with these when we play with the Distress Oxide inks. But let's kind of get started in on how these inks work and how to get them down on the paper. Okay, we're going to play with a couple of other new products tonight. Okay. One of my favorite things to use inks for is a new product that we have called Irresistibles. Okay, and while this video is catching up, I'm going to go ahead and pull out a couple of these, and we're going to play with these. Find the right paper that I would like here. Check. Star. All right, here we go. So we'll just go ahead and pull this out. All right, so these are, we have cardstock and we have alphabets. Okay, So what I want to do here is as you look at these papers, and it'll be a little harder for you to see on screen, and I'll try to move it so you can kind of see the iridescence and all of that, is as you look at these, there is an embossed area, as you can kind of see the sparkles on the screen, and there is just a normal paper area, okay? What's going to happen when we use our inks on these is, guess what? That embossed area is going to resist the ink. So we're going to play with that a little bit tonight. So I'm going to create a title for my first 2 pages in January. Actually, I'm just going to create a little January title for my calendar. And then on this piece of paper here, this is just a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. Here, this second piece. And this is in a plaid pattern. You can see as I kind of move it around, you can see the reflections off of the embossed piece. And we're going to cut some of this out, and this is going to become part of our layout tonight as well. And we're going to ink this up. I'm going to show you how to ink this up. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this irresistible cardstock. I am going to cut it down to a 6 by 8. Oh, so I've got a couple of pieces here that I'm going to play with. I'm going to set that aside. I know what I want for my title is going to be January. So I'm going to need a J, I'm going to need an A, and I'm going to need an N. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that on this page without ever really having to take anything off, which is a lot of fun. Okay, so what I'm doing is I always start my memory journal with a title page for the month. The next page, I always have a calendar overview. Okay, so that is what I'm going to be creating tonight, is kind of that calendar overview type look. Okay, so let's get started first of all with our alphabet, because this is going to be the hardest part of it. Okay, I am going to use my sticky tape here, and I am going to mask off all around the J that I want to use, which I picked this first one here, so that I don't mistakenly get any ink anywhere else. You can see I'm just going to be applying my tape here. Here we go. Just like that. Now, this is a fairly small little letter, you can see, just right here in the middle of my tape. So I am going to want something fairly small to work with. And I would like, of course, my January title to be in honey butter, because that's the color that I really want to work with. Okay, so because I'm dealing with such a small area, I'm going to choose my little finger dauber here, and that's what we're going to use. Okay, we are going to ink it up by just pressing down into our ink pad. Basically, what we want to see is we want to see this ink basically fill up inside this little domed area. Okay, all I need to do now is take and press my ink dauber down all along that J. Okay. Again, I'm just making sure I have it nice and covered. Let me grab just a little piece of wax paper and let's see what it looks like. I have a really cute polka dotted honey butter J ready to go for this layout. Okay, let's do the same thing up here on our A. This one's going to be a little easier because it kind of goes off the edge of the paper. Okay, again, I'm going to mask it all out. Okay, you can see my little J down here where I used it. No big deal. And I'm going to take my same ink pad, my same dauber, and I'm going to do the same thing. And again, I'm just kind of lightly pressing down into the paper using a twisting motion. When I feel like the ink's getting a little light, I will just come back in, ink it up again, and keep going. Okay, there we go. Let's take a look and see how our A looks. Super cute polka dotted A for January. I'll let the video catch up. There we go. All right. Okay, and I'll repeat that for the end. I'm not going to do that now because I think you get the picture. Okay, again, very small areas. Didn't need to remove them off of the sheet. All I needed to do was create a little bit of masking around them so that I didn't accidentally spread ink to other places. Okay, always have your favorite friend when you're dealing with inks, baby wipes, paper towels, have all of that kind of at the ready because you will need those. Okay, so that kind of demonstrates the finger dauber. Now let's go and let's look at this nice little piece here of our irresistible cardstock. Okay, for this, because I want to ink to the edges, I'm going to set our J and A aside. We'll finish those later. Because I am planning on going to the edges and I want to get all parts of this done, I am going to put a piece of scratch paper underneath it. Okay, you could use your craft mat if you wanted to. I prefer paper because it lets me come in and get onto the edges. And it also, as I'm using my tools, as I'm coming in here and using my tools, and we'll be using our big stamper today, the consistency going from paper to paper is the same. Okay, I'm not going to slide off of this and go off onto a great big, sheet of our nonstick mat where it's very slippery. Okay, so for this particular layout, I am going to use this linen ink. Okay. And let's see what I've got over here. Maybe not. I don't have a dauber out for that. Let's choose another one. Let's use some glacier ink on this. Okay. Actually, no, we're going to use toffee. Sorry. Just trying to think of my layout here in mind. And again, because this is a larger surface, I have my choice here between my flat foam or my domed foam. So what I'm going to use on this is I am going to use the domed foam because I've got a lot of area to cover here and I want it to be a very smooth consistency. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I know that I don't need a 4x6 piece of paper. I'm going to cut this down to 3x4 because I also want to demonstrate we're going to do one with our close to my heart dye inks that dry very quickly. And then I'm also going to come in and I'm going to do one with vintage photo with a distress ink. And we're going to look at the differences in terms of how these inks blend and the consistency and smoothness of the blend. Okay, so all I'm doing now is just inking up my ink pad. Okay, I'm going to start kind of that same motion I was doing before and just start kind of twisting and putting this ink down on this Irresistibles paper. Okay, And you can see, you're already starting to see a huge pattern come out of it, just even as I'm finishing it up here. Okay. And I'm just kind of going back in, kind of here and there, picking up some lighter spots. Okay. I'm going to take my wipe quickly, wipe off any ink that might have stuck on that embossed part. And here you can see I have this really cute little brown plaid. Now you can see I've got a lot of texture variance in there, and maybe that's what I want, but maybe it's not. So let's try this same exact exercise, only let's use our Distress Oxide inks, okay? So this was our toffee example. We're gonna set that aside. And let me grab quickly here a new dauber. Here we go. Okay, so this was my toffee. I'm going to put it back in its little home. Just so I don't get them all mixed up here. And these are just little bead containers that I keep these in to keep them from drying out. So we're going to put that over here. Wipe the ink off. I've got a brand new dauber, so this is what it looks like. I have chosen the foam. This is what it looks like before it gets any ink or anything else on it. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to play with the Distress ink, and we're going to play with this vintage photo. Again, it's a nice, light, kind of warm brown tone. Okay, all I'm doing right now, again, is pressing my foam applicator down into the ink pad to make sure that I get nice, good ink coverage on the dauber. And then I'm ready to start, okay? And now what I'm gonna do is I'm doing the same thing. I'm gonna come in here and I'm just gonna start, again, daubing this ink down, okay? And you would use the same method, whether you were doing something like this on an irresistible paper, or whether you were using it on a stencil, which I'll show you next. Okay. So do you notice anything at all about this just as I'm kind of going through here? It actually gets much more even coverage from the very beginning. And that is because the consistency of these Distress inks, and especially if I come in here and start to really kind of rub on it, these Distress inks are going to give you a much more consistent background than your dye inks. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to wipe this off so that I get that true white to come through.
It covered up the embossing.
Okay, so here's our two panels. Okay. We'll let the video catch up here. There we go. And so here, as you look at the two of these, you can see the dye-based ink gives us a lot more variations in color and in texture versus what the Distress Oxide will give us. The Distress Oxide will be a much smoother and easier application. So if you are just starting out with ink blending, I would definitely recommend picking up some Distress Oxides just to make this a little easier on yourself. Okay? All right. So you've all seen me do this multiple times. My toffee, I have my little finger dauber here for toffee. The other thing that I like to do is I'll bring in my finger dauber And let's just say I want to just kind of darken these edges just a tiny, tiny bit. Okay. I will grab that finger dauber, bring in it to my piece of paper and my ink pad, and just go right around the edges. Okay. I'll do the same thing, but I am going to grab a clean baby wipe this time. And I'm just going to wipe off that excess quickly around the edges. There we go. So now you can see I've got just a little bit more variation in tone in there, kind of taking advantage of this dye ink. Okay. So there's a couple of just different examples of how we can use all of these types of inks. And again, we'll rub off my little January here to make sure I don't have any of the honey butter lingering around out there on my white polka dots. But this just kind of gives you an idea of the different types of applicators and how you would use them. Okay. So we're just going to set these aside here. Just a few minutes. So now let's talk about how we use and what we use with stencils. Okay, so this was kind of a neat piece of paper. You could do this with tags. That's how we did our tags that we did last night, was we just blended all of these inks together. Okay, so we'll set those aside for right now. We will be using those here in a bit. I'm going to set my inks up here. And let's set that aside for now. So now let's talk about what do we want to do if we want to use some stencils. Okay. My first page that I'm working on, I pulled out this really cute circle stencil. It's kind of going to be a little harder to see. Let me find a black background. There we go. And it's just a whole lot of different size circles. This is from our card front. And so basically what I did was I went ahead and stamped a couple of pieces here. And I did it in a couple of different ways. Okay. The first one that I did was I took just a piece of white daisy cardstock and I put some speckled egg distress oxide on it. Okay. And that is this kind of larger piece that you see here. Okay. So I just basically created a new background paper. The other thing that I did was I decided to take some honey butter paper and take that and actually apply honey butter ink on top of it to give it kind of a tone on tone look. Okay, we've done this before just with pure stamping. This, we're actually looking at it from a pure tone on tone look. Okay, so this is a lot of fun to do. Okay, so I just created these cute little backgrounds. Now there's one other thing that I want to do. So my first page that I'm planning has this cute little circle die cut that I want to use. And so I really want to use this kind of circle theme. So that is why I went ahead and did some more circle stencils here, because I plan on doing something kind of like this. And if I look at my first photo here, again, going right into my book. There we go. There's my daughter's photo there that I plan on using. And I also thought that I just might use a little round journaling tag there. Okay. I might cut some borders out of this to give me a little bit more color. And that's basically going to be my first layout for this January book. Okay, so you can see just kind of using this whole circle theme. Again, I'm still using I'm using a travel map background, but in bringing in these other features and these other shapes, I'm making it less travel themed. Okay, And it will now be just more of an everyday story, the way that I have it laid out right now. Okay, so these are kind of my pieces, parts that I've been working on to do this. But what I want to do is I want to create another little tag. So as I'm kind of sitting here looking at this, I kind of want a little title or something to go right up here. So this is where I'm going to go and grab the stamp set that coordinates with this one of the two stamp sets. And what I want to do is I want to do this little love this place. Okay. Again, doesn't have to mean just travel, but I'm going to use that particular stamp because this is me and my daughter in the craft room. We spent the whole day in the craft room and we were just playing and cutting out stickers and doing all sorts of fun stuff. Okay. So I know that I want to do this particular stamp, but I've got a lot of blue on here. I think I'm going to maybe add a little bit, some little pops of yellows here, kind of around just on some borders, just with some more dots. But there's a whole lot of blue on this layout. And so I want to break that up a little bit, okay? And I could even decide if I wanted to bring this cute little linen piece out. We'll just kind of see which way we think it looks best. Bring it out here on top. There we go. And we could have a layout that looks something similar to that instead. And again, keeping in mind our goal with mixed media, inks, all of that is to give depth and texture to our layout, which you can see we have definitely done here between the polka dots and the different shapes that we're cutting out. But I also have this really plain journaling tag here. So we're going to fix that here in just a little bit. Okay. So what we're going to do, first of all, I'm going to set this to the side. Because again, keeping in mind, that's ultimately what I want it to look like. I am going to go ahead and pull out my stamps and my die that goes with this. Okay. So those are going to sit right there. I'm going to get my stamp off. Find the right size block for that stamp. There we go. Okay, remember, same techniques apply. Make sure your block is the right size. Okay, I have not used this stamp before, so I'm going to quickly season it. Just rub it on my hands. But I want to do something a little different with this. I want to use a couple of different colors of ink. Okay. And I'm going to use Speckled Egg and Vintage Photo to stamp this, okay? And if you've ever stamped with inks before, you know that it's difficult to get a good stamped image using multiple colors at the same time. So let me show you a trick to get that, okay? I am going to start with my Vintage Photo. Okay, I'm going to ink my dauber and I'm going to ink my stamp. Okay, this technique works really well with distress inks because they stay wet a little longer. It does not work very well with dye inks because they will dry too quickly on you. So this is a great technique for distress inks. Okay, I've now taken my lighter color here and I've inked that up. I've inked up my stamp, making sure I have plenty of ink everywhere. Now I'm going to take my stamp. I'm going to stamp it down. And I have this super cute little variegated color stamp. Okay, so I'm going to cut that out just using my thin cut. And that I know, oops, make sure I get it to the right way here. Okay, just like that is how it's going to cut out. I'm just putting that right around the edge. I'm going to grab some of my tape to tape that on. Okay, just like that. Let's throw our lids back on our ink so we have room for our little Sizzix machine. There we go. And let's cut this out. There we go. All right, I will get this moved out of the way and we will take a look at how our layout is shaping up here. A quick look here. Here's my little title. Again, another geometric shape, but it works really well with this particular layout. And you can see it's given me a little bit more white space, and it's given me just a little bit more details that I can work with, and a little bit more color.
I watched the last 5 minutes on my phone.
So that is how you can ink up your stamp with using your daubers. And again, works very, very well for distress. Okay, I'm just going to clean this quickly with my stamp chamois. Dry it off. My stamp chamois is really wet tonight. There we go. And we are done with this little part of our layout. Okay. Now, got one more great big white blob down here that I don't like. So let's fix that. And then this layout will be pretty much ready to go, besides maybe a little border or something like that, which I haven't quite decided yet. All right, we're going to put up our stamp. What I want to do on this is I want to show you some of the water reactivity that we have with this Distress Oxide ink. Okay, to do that, I am actually going to pull out my craft mat. Okay, I'm just going to set my layout to the side. I'm going to get my nonstick craft mat out and put my tag right in the middle of it. Okay, so now I need to kind of decide, what do I want to do with this tag? What do I want this thing to look like? Well, in looking at my layout, I'll bring it back into the picture here. When we look at this layout, there's a lot of the kind of the speckled egg and the glacier color. There's some little pops of yellow, and there's a little bit of brown on there. And then my daughter's kind of a neutralish brown color. She's got some pink on, but it's not really bright or anything like that. So I think what I want to do on this particular tag is I want to create and I want to feed either off of this yellow to give us, again, that visual triangle of that color appearing in 3 places, or I want to go off of this brown. I want to go off of the vintage photo. So those are kind of my options right now as I'm kind of looking at this. And so I'm going to kind of decide, how do I want to do this? I know this is going to be a journaling tag. I know I'm going to write on it. So therefore, whatever I do needs to be somewhat muted. So I'm just kind of taking a look kind of quickly through my stencils. I saw these cute little hearts and thought that might be kind of cute to do. So that's an option. So I might do some little heart stencils on there, just kind of right across the middle. And I could easily write in between. So that's definitely an idea. And that would tie it in with my heart on my tag. And I could also put a couple more, let's just say we wanted, what I could do to kind of finish up this page might be to grab some more just little acrylic hearts or something like that and kind of keep tying in that heart type theme on here, which would be really cute. Okay, so that's just an idea I'm kind of throwing around. So I kind of like that heart idea. So let's get ready to stencil, and I will show you how to use this. Get a new dauber here. Yeah. This is how I store all of my finger daubers when they're not in a current kit. I'm just going to grab a new one. This is what it looks like because I don't have a dauber already set aside for vintage photo. So I got to create one, and that's fine. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to tape up my stencil so it doesn't move. Oops. Having issues with this tape. There we go. All right. So we're going to tape this up. And we're going to make it to where these little hearts can't move on us because we want to get a nice, clean stencil on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of line this up here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of mask this off down here at the bottom. And you can see I kind of have the first part of it all ready to go. I'm going to ink up my dauber. Again, you want to make sure you don't want to see any white areas in the center. You want to make sure that you have a nice, good ink on there. Okay. And I want these to be fairly faint. Okay. So all I'm doing is just barely touching my dauber down on top of the stencil, right where the hearts are. So I just want to give it some texture, but I don't want it to be, I still want to be able to journal on this, okay? And if you look at it right now, it just kind of looks like a big brown mess, okay? Let's wait until we take off the stencil. And here you can start to see when we take this stencil off, kind of what our finished product is going to look like. And it's going to have these cute little light stenciled hearts on there that just gives it a little bit of distinction. Okay. I am going to, the one thing I love about these, stencils are that I can line them up again. Okay. And in this case, I'm going to have to attach my stencil from the bottom. Okay, I'm going to line up my hearts on my stencil. I'm going to stick that down so it doesn't move. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to do these next couple of rows. No need to clean the stencil in between. Again, if you press harder, you're going to get some darker hearts. And if you keep your touch very light, you're going to have just some nice little lightweight, light colored hearts. And I'm going to do it one more time, just right down here on the bottom. Again, kind of sticking my stencil down as it lines up on those prior hearts. There we go. Just like this. And I'll be able to get this last row of hearts in now. Okay. Get rid of that tape. I'm going to clean my stencil off quickly now that I am finishing up. And I just do that usually with a baby wipe is all that I do. There we go. And now we have this cute little tag that as I bring it onto my mat, you can see I don't just have this great big white blob anymore. Okay, and I've got some nice lines on there with the hearts to be able to decorate. Now I am going to go ahead, I'm going to distress my edges a little bit just by taking my finger dauber, going all around the edge of this tag. Okay, I'll get my little centerpiece here in a little while. Okay, now let's say I'm looking at this and, you know, the hearts are still a little too pronounced for me. You know, it's going to be hard to see the journaling behind that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my water brush. This is where the water reactivity of the Distress Oxide inks come in. I'm going to get a little pool of water going here. And I'm going to brush that over lightly, especially here on the edges. And I'm going to start creating a watercolor effect around each of these hearts. And I'm just kind of pooling the water, kind of putting it right on top of each heart, going from heart to heart. And basically what this water is doing now is it's spreading that ink out. And when this dries, it's going to be a much lighter and opaque color. Go around my edges a little bit more because some of those are kind of harsh. But I'm just kind of playing with the water a little bit here. And right now it looks a little funny. Looks like there's a whole lot of little wet dots in there. And there is. As this dries, these dots are going to become more of a watercolor effect. Instead of being a pure stencil, a true heart shape, what's going to happen is that these are going to fade into our background a little bit more. Okay, so then what I can do as soon as this dries, I can come and grab one of my little stencil line templates that I have. I can put my lines on there. Probably in a dark brown color would be my guess, just to kind of fit in with the whole motif of this layout. And then there's my journaling tag with a nice, cute little watercolored heart background that we did using Distress inks, a stencil, and a water paintbrush. And that's it. Okay. And again, this is going to take just a little bit to dry. I could use my heat tool, but we really don't want that noise. If I feel like something just is not quite the right amount of fading, I can still come in here a little bit more, add a little bit more water, just kind of here and there. Again, the more water you add, the longer it's going to take to dry. That's okay. Okay, this edge up here is kind of bothering me, so I'm just going to kind of soften that up a little bit. But by inking that edge and softening it, I have just given this particular embellishment here a huge lift off of the page, and it no longer blends into these dots that are behind it, even though they're the exact same shape. So again, we've used our inks to create that dimension and texture in our layout. Okay. All right, so that pretty much ends the kind of the technical teaching portion. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the live so that we can all chat, because we can't chat when it's on. So let me do that super quick. Let's see. There we go. All right. So now can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Awesome. And now I will be able to hear you as well. That's the one drawback of doing live. Questions, comments. What do you think? Fun? Not fun? Something to kind of try on your next layout? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was playing around a week or so ago with water and colors. On my own. I have I can't remember what it is now because I'm not my craft room. It's a powder ink. Thing.
Yeah.
And on my mat, I sprinkled a little powder, and then I used my spray bottle. I sprayed a little water just to see what it would do, and then I swirl it around a little bit with the water, and then I have these pearl drops.
Yep.
So it's a pink color. So I added a little more pink with glitter. Color had glitter in it, so I added a little bit of pink glitter in there. Just to see what it's going to do. Just play around with it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's a cool. So I took a card and swiped it all up. I was like, oh, awesome background.
Yep.
So I just laid it there to try, and I haven't done anything with it yet. But I'm like, that's going to make a cool background for a card.
Absolutely. And you can use,
awesome.
You can use distress inks. Again, be careful mixing, because if you mix the wrong colors, you will get brown. That's just the law of physics. But you can use distress inks to create a really cool watercolor effect on just about anything. Let's see if I can find, here's another little small tag. I have my little small tags kind of all around here. Let's pull those two out. And so let's just say, for example, I wanted to do not that color with this. Let's do some scattered straw, which is very close to honey butter. Okay. So one of the things that we can also do is take your ink pad, your distress ink pad, push it right out on your craft mat. Grab your water brush, throw some water in there. Okay, again, you're kind of creating this watercolor. And just exactly like what Carmen was just describing, all I'm going to do is take my tag, kind of toss it in there. Okay. Okay, and now when this dries, and again, I used a pretty light color, so it'll be a little harder to see. But when that tag dries, I'm going to have this really cool, and let's say, I really feel like I need a little more color down in here. Just take your brush, go right onto your ink pad, add that color, okay? Push it around a little bit.
Okay. I don't have any distress ink right now. I need to invest in some, but yeah, I was just messing around with what I do have, and I was like, oh, that's just cool.
There are some great, where are they from? Hang on one second. Let me go grab them. There are some great powdered watercolors that I have. Let me grab those real quick while that's kind of drying there. I got that bottom end really, really wet. But let me grab those. And they work a lot on this same principle. Give me 1 second.
Okay, Google, temperature.
All right. So these are super fun to play with. Very reactive, just like the inks we were just playing with. But let's look at it. I'm just going to set that stuff aside. So these are color burst powders, okay? And they may be very similar to what you were just talking about. And they come in like liquid metals. They come in sparkly colors. They come in just like normal colors. But these work in a very similar way.
Weather.
So they're all by Ken Oliver. And all you do is exactly like what you were just talking about. It is a tiny, tiny bit of powder. It is some water. And basically, you've just created a liquid ink here.
Yeah.
Okay. These are fun to splatter. That's always one of my fun things to do, is to splatter some inks kind of everywhere. But you can see that tiny, tiny bit of powder just created a huge amount of ink. And you can see the wetter the tag, okay? So you can see here when I painted that on, it stayed pretty consistent, okay? Let me make my tag a little wetter now. Okay, this poor tag, I'm not using watercolor paper, so who knows what's going to happen with this poor little tag. But now let's just say I want to come in here and I just want to drop some color. Okay, now you see it reacting and spreading because my tag itself is wet. Okay.
That's cool.
They're really cool. They're really a cool product. And as you can see, I mean, you saw how little I put down. And goodness, I'm still squeezing it out of my paintbrush. Okay. And again, I could take this, I could come in, take a bigger tag. I'm going to wet my tag. This is just a big tag. And these are extremely messy, as you can see. Oh my gosh.
Oh, of course.
I don't let Bree play with these, put it that way. Okay. I'm going to wet my tag. Just going to put it down in there. See what it does.
That's so cool.
Okay. Again, the wetter my tag, the more this is going to spread and become a watercolor effect. Woo, look at that. That is messy.
Yeah.
I'm going to be blue for days.
That's what wet wipes are for.
That's exactly right. Okay. So we're going to let these dry a little bit. So again, a different type. Ooh, need some more wet wipes off of that one. My goodness. Different types of inks will produce these different amounts. And different amounts of color, different amounts of watercolor. Okay.
It was really fun to play with.
It is a lot of fun to play with. So I created an art journal page. Oh my goodness, I am blue forever now. I created an art journal page using these shimmers, but I did it all in like an antique rust type pattern. So, and then I created it on water paper, which is what I should have done with these. And then what I did was I decided in my art journal that I was going to basically take all of those out, cut them into hexagons, And that became the basis of my layout, as well as a couple of tags.
Oh, that's cool. Those
Okay.
are cool.
So yeah, but these are these same shimmers. I just used, I think I probably even used that same blue. I love that blue. I think I used the blue. Yeah. I used the orange. And then I think I used, that was a metallic. And then I used a metallic yellow. And that's what I did just by dipping this piece of paper. And then I was very strategic when I was cutting out my hexagons in terms of where did I cut those out from. Okay, so just some other ideas that you can do with this. So again, doesn't have to be in a memory journal or anything like that. It can be something just like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so just some other fun ideas. Other questions, comments? Still trying to get the blue out of my brush. Almost there. Here we go. So yeah, so these are a lot of fun. So these are Ken Oliver. I think I got these on Zulily, quite frankly. They run a lot of his specials a lot of the time. And you can see I've got just a big variety of them. And heaven knows, I don't know how long one of these bottles will last, because there's a lot in there and you do not use very much at a time. Okay. There's this little guy. I might have got him a little too wet. Things are spreading a little too much, but this one I think is going to have a really cool texture to it when he gets done. Okay. Other questions, comments? Irma, anything from you? Anything you want to see or try?
I was happy you showed all the inking stuff. You know, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, that's kind of what every class this month is going to be all about, is all these different types of inks, how to add that texture and dimension without just adding layers upon layers upon layers of paper, which there's nothing wrong with that either. There are times when that's a great thing to do, but this is just a great way to add some really interesting features without, and getting to be really creative with it. I'm not just pulling a sticker off of a pad or something like that, but I get to be really creative with it. And just kind of, just like you said, Carmen, just kind of see where it goes. What's it going to do?
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Just play around, see what happens. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But
that's right.
Just play around.
That's exactly right.
If it works, you can use it. If it doesn't, it goes in the trash. No harm done.
If it doesn't, it gets cut up into octagons and gets put somewhere as an accent piece. You never know. Cut it off as a border. There's all sorts of different options you can do with it.
Oh, yeah. Again, as you said, be careful on when you're mixing colors, because you're going to end up with something that doesn't look good.
Yes.
But, that's just a given. But yeah, you just play around with what you have and see what you come up with. It's creativity.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Irma, any other questions on ink application? Did it make sense with what I did with the little stamp here in terms of how I inked it up to get multiple colors on the stamp?
Yes.
Just trying to make sure if there's anything else, Carmen, anything else you can think of that would be beneficial to see or anything like that. Oh, I probably should have done my circles and put them in that. That would have been really cute.
Oh,
but
yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. I think this poor layout's going to have a whole lot of color and texture to it anyway. So, and we'll let these guys dry, see what they do. I may come back in and put some additional colors on that. Maybe.
I think the whole point is to just have fun.
It is.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely. That is what it's all about. Just have fun, play with it, experiment. I always encourage you to experiment on small things. You notice I didn't do a single thing on the background of my page here purposely. Something doesn't quite turn out the way that I want it to. You know what? It's pretty easy to fix. Okay. All I did was waste a little bit of a tag. Okay, and you can see this is our white daisy cardstock, and it does hold up relatively well to water and all of that. But like this poor little guy, you can see is pretty saturated. So we'll see how he comes out. He might come out really cute. And as it dries, it's going to get lighter. As you notice our little tag here with the hearts, they've definitely gotten lighter. Okay,
Yep.
so all of that's going to get just a little bit lighter. So there's a little tag that goes on that. All right. Well, ladies, if there's no further questions, I think we are done for tonight then. So
Okay.
if you've got something you want to work on, I am happy to hang around for a little bit. Or if you want to try something and say, hey, did this work? I'm happy to hang around and because we've got still until 8. Or if you are done and want to log off, we can do that as well.
I am good.
I'm
All
good.
right. All right. Perfect.
All right.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Bye.